Good morning. It's July 13th, 2022. Welcome to Triggered. As you can see, it's Stampede week. Yes, Wednesday, halfway through. And for those who know me, they know I hate wearing hats. I never wear hats. I never wear anything on my head. Even when I worked in the bush surveying, it had to get at least below minus 20 before I'd wear a toque. But the other thing I really hate wearing is neckties. So I get my pass from wearing neckties if I dress Western for the Stampede. So here we are. I bought the hat. I bought this abomination of a shirt with these mother of pearl buttons, and I'm dressed Western for the biggest cosplay event on earth, the Calgary Stampede. So bear with me, folks. Either way, yes, we got a lot to cover today. It's a busy one. We're going to have our intrepid Mel Risdon going out actually onto the midway to get some more direct stuff from the Stampede as it's going on. You know, it's been a couple of years since we've had a full one. Turnouts have been really good at it. The weather's been good for it. It's good to see people out having a good time. We really need it. God knows the whole world's overdue for a good time. So the comment scroll, good to see you all there from Grand Prairie. Even looks like Donna out in Ohio. Great. We've got people from out of town. Claudette there. Allie from Moncton, New Brunswick. We got people across the country. Randy in Swan Hills, land of the Swan Hills Grizzlies, and a good waste disposal site. I like seeing people using that comment scroll, reminding us it's live, that this is interactive. You can get questions to me, questions to the guests, and just keep this moving. This hat's making my head itch. I also kept a glass of water handy this time in case I have any coughing fits. Okay, so for the other observations today, let's see. It is International Beans and Franks Day. Yes, this is the day of wieners and beans. A staple food for everybody on a budget, something the kids at least will be somewhat prone to eat. Cut up some hot dogs, throw them into a can of beans, and you're off to the races. This is the day to reminisce about them. You know, they're kind of good comfort food. It's cheap stuff. It's easy. You might not want to eat it every day, especially if you got to work in a cramped studio. But for today, it is Beans and Franks Day. And I mean, hey, anybody, you know, if you want a Western, one that's worth watching, Blazing Saddles, and they show the outcomes and the fun you can have from eating a lot of Franks and beans in a Western environment. Okay, it's also, galling as it may be, World Cup Soccer Day. Yes, not footy, not football. World Cup Soccer Day. This is the day that is supposed to be observed, and I'll observe it. I'll pay it its due respect. I still don't know if I got to pay my tax dollars towards it, but that debate's still ongoing around here. But today is the day for those who do appreciate and enjoy that thing. It is World Cup Soccer Day, and I'd be remiss if I didn't remind everybody of that so they could observe it. All right, so let's see. For the guests today, I've got as well, besides Melanie coming in a little later, Paul Hinman's going to come on from the Wildrose Independence Party, and we're just going to find out what the heck's going on over there. It's political party stuff. It's always a masochistic endeavor for anybody to get involved in, I'll tell you that. We're going to talk to Paul and see what's up. They got an AGM coming up pretty soon. Maybe they'll be able to resolve some things and get their stuff sorted out, because we got an election less than a year away. Andrew Ruland of Integrated Wealth Management is going to come on. He's been on before. He's a great guest. You know, he's a good conservative thinking man. And of course, he knows about wealth management, because we want to talk about this sudden, wow, here we go, another interest rate hike, and they're going to keep coming, and it's going to impact us, and we need to talk about it. So we'll get to that. Now, let's see what I'm going on about today. I'm going to start with a quote I used yesterday from Iron Mike Tyson, where everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. The plan right now is to defeat climate change through the banning and reducing of fertilizer use. This plan is being pushed by the World Economic Forum and its acolytes in roles of authority like Justin Trudeau and the Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. The punch in the mouth for those people will be the unrest generated, though, through world hunger. The government of Sri Lanka was basically toppled this month through a citizen uprising sparked by a fertilizer ban that crippled the nation and shot food costs through the roof. The Netherlands have been paralyzed for weeks due to an uprising of farmers protesting against their fertilizer bans that would be economically catastrophic to them. Farmers know how essential fertilizers are as they watch crop yields carefully. Citizens are soon going to know how essential fertilizers are as they watch the cost of food staples rise beyond reach. While it hasn't been making headlines in the legacy media, Canada has a plan to cut fertilizer use by 30% below 2020 levels in less than 8 years. If this plan's imposed, it's going to be a disaster for Canadian agricultural producers who are already struggling under the weight of increasing carbon taxes. This will, of course, lead to explosively rising food costs for Canadian consumers and it'll even impact world food prices since Canada is a major agricultural exporter. Government leaders don't understand how essential fertilizers are because they live in cloistered worlds where their every expense, including food, is covered by the taxpayers. I mean, while people struggle to keep their families nourished, Canada's Governor General spent $93,000 to feed her entourage on a flight to the Middle East. The bill didn't even include drinks. I mean, they must have been snorting powdered truffles or something to bring the price that high. And that's the sort of thing that fosters citizen uprisings if our blinded leaders don't see it coming and won't understand why it's happening. The world's population has nearly doubled since 1975. Yet if you look, world famines have virtually vanished. The images of hunger we observed through the 80s and 90s are rare today. Famines, they still happen, but they're usually localized and caused by wars and civil unrest or by socialism, such as in Venezuela. Modern farming practices are the sole reason we don't see millions of people starving to death every year. The yield of food per acre on a modern farm has been rising as fast or faster than world populations have. Soil management and chemical fertilizer is the game changer here. And our ideologically blinded elites in government want to ban these fertilizers. Look, organic farming using manure-based fertilizers and hand weeding is a nice novelty and a luxury. It's not a realistic means to produce food. We need fertilizers along with chemicals like ammonia to produce the high yields we require to feed the world. Now, when a family is malnourished or starving, nothing else matters. No amount of virtue signaling from vacuous politicians like Trudeau or dire warnings of a 1 degree rise in world temperature are going to make a difference to people in that condition. Of course, and I've messed up my teleprompter. I wrote all this in such good faith. There we go. When a family's malnourished. So let's get back to this. So again, though, when people are hungry, when you can't feed your family, you're not worried about these distant possible things of global warming. Energy is a need as well, and nations and northern nations aren't going to stand for freezing in the dark without food for the sake of hopeless battles against potential global warming. Europe's getting a serious reality check right now as they discover they've handed over both their food security and their energy security to a nation that doesn't have their best interest at heart. Canada's on the road to having that wake-up call as well. Green dreams are nothing more than fluffy ideals when citizens can't pay the bills. Will the government die on the climate change hill, or will they face economic reality and let hydrocarbons and chemical fertilizers continue to foster prosperity? If they do refuse to face reality, the next question will be whether they're removed electorally or through an uprising. Citizens won't stand by and starve for the climate ideals of elitists in government any longer. The reality check's coming, guys, and it's going to get hungry. All right, so that's what's got me wound up today. Let's bring in our news editor and see what he's wound up about this morning, and that's Dave Naylor. There he is. How's it going, Dave?
Morning, Tex. How are you?
Oh, good. I'm feeling more Western and Albertan by the moment. I was born here, but I just never learned to embrace Western wear.
You would do anything not to wear a tie, right?
Pretty close.
Hey, did I hear you talking yesterday that you'd messed up your bees somehow and ruined their hive?
I did. I didn't clean off what they call burr comb well enough when I'd added the second box on top. And when I tried to inspect the hives and lift the top box off, I tore all my frames apart. So I had angry bees and honeycomb and a mess all over the place that I had to try and tidy as an inexperienced beekeeper. I'm learning a lot of lessons as we go with this.
And still no stings yet?
Not yet, but I do keep myself suited. I am a coward.
Yeah, it's good for you. On the website at the moment, Cory, we have a good story on a CBC reporter, a longtime reporter who has resigned, saying CBC is losing its journalistic principles. So that's an interesting story. We've just kind of noticed that ourselves over the years. So that's a good story by our Mel Risdon. We've got a story on Preston Manning talking about Tamara Leach and her imprisonment. He calls it unconscionable and says if she'd been attacking a liberal value, she would be lionized by the left and given the Order of Canada, and CBC would make documentaries about her. So it's a good read from Preston Manning. Big news this morning, Cory, obviously, is the Bank of Canada rate up a full 1%. Some experts were calling for it to be up 0.75, but this 1% was shocking to even the experts. So that's going to cause more economic chaos for Canadian families. And Dr. Fauci is back in the news in the States, sort of confirming what we've already figured out ourselves, that COVID vaccines do not halt the spread of the virus. And that's certainly what the stats are showing. So we got all that and more up there, Cory. People in Ontario over 18 can now go get their second booster shot. So that's big news for people down there. And we've got some breaking news from the Danielle Smith campaign that will be up shortly. She's proposing, if she becomes premier, giving everybody their own health spending account with $300 in it. And you're able to use that for whatever you want, massages, glasses, that sort of thing. So I think that will resonate well with Albertans, Cory, and that story will be up shortly for you.
She's getting creative with the campaign promises anyways and catching people's attention. It's hard to hear much from the other candidates so far.
Yeah, she's dominating the news cycle by far, Cory, leaving everybody else in the dust, in my opinion. They've got to pick up their game and get some announcements of their own out there.
Yeah, so with Fauci formally admitting, I mean, they've kind of talked around it for a long time that vaccines don't prevent transmission. I just wonder, it seems we're always, a few months behind what other people were saying when it comes to this whole pandemic thing. There really isn't much justification left for these mandates anymore.
No, certainly not. And, Canada's taken a long, fair amount of the mandates away, but we got to remember they're still on truckers. The vindictive Trudeau government is going to harass truckers till the very end, I think. So hopefully relief is coming soon for them.
One would hope. All right. Thanks, Dave. I'll talk to you after the show.
Yeah, we'll see you on the pipeline.
Right on. Yes, today is the day we do the pipeline. That's our weekly show with Dave and Derek and I, where we break down a number of issues, something you guys can look forward to a little later. If you haven't gotten enough of a taste of my rambling and ranting, you can get some more of it a little later. This is the time I remind you all these stories going on. That one in Penticton really has been going on, with a bit of a vigilante movement going on out there, out in BC, with frustrated business owners. Reed Small wrote that one. Reed's out in BC. He's really picking up on the BC news. We got Matt in Ottawa. We got Chris in Saskatchewan. We got Linda in Manitoba. We're really spreading out across this country. We even got that newfie working in Edmonton now, covering our provincial affairs. And the reason we can do that is because of you guys who are our members. Subscriptions, that's the way we do it. We are not tax funded. We qualify for it. We won't take it. I love standing on a high horse point of pride, and that's one of them. So you guys who are subscribing already, thank you very much. That's the reason we can do this. And if you haven't yet, get on there. It's $10 a month, guys. Well worth it. We're not asking for charity. We're selling a product. We got people working hard, sourcing these stories, talking to people directly, getting original content. And this is the way we can do it. For $10 a month, $99 a year, less than an old newspaper subscription used to cost, you can get on there and get access to all of this stuff as it breaks. So get on there, westernstandard.news/membership, and take one out. And hey, if you've already got one, get out and nag some other folks to get on there. This is how we can beat that terrible mainstream media out there with their wretched coverage of pretty much everything, because they are beholden to the government. Let's see. I'm going to look at some other stuff that didn't pop up in our news quite yet, I don't think. But Starbucks, a Starbucks in Calgary has unionized. Yes, this is going to end well for sure. So we can look forward to, because the coffee at Starbucks wasn't expensive or pretentious enough yet. Now it's going to be made by a barista making $30 an hour with a massive pension plan. I think we're seeing the beginning of the end of Starbucks. I find it kind of funny and ironic, though. If you look at the whole history and progression of Starbucks, it started way out in the left coast, and it was the hippie coffee. It was the trendy coffee. It was the left-wing coffee. It was all ethically sourced. It was cool. But, of course, they were a victim of their own success. I mean, they're across all of North America. And they're huge. They're a big, big business. And, of course, eventually the woke left turns on their own, and they've turned on Starbucks quite some time ago. Now it has to be, some sort of little corner shop owned in a bad part of town, run, serving cat poop coffee or something like that. Starbucks is still enduring and hanging in there, but this will be a death knell. And they got a whole bunch of them going union all over the place. And part of that is, of course, they've attracted and drawn all these woke entitled chodes as staff to work in their stores. And it's caught up with them. Go woke, go broke. That's the atmosphere you fostered. It's going to cost you. It's unfortunate. But yeah, Claudette saying they're already closing a bunch of Starbucks down. Yeah, and there's a whole whack of them. 16 locations right away are getting shut down, and they're blaming, saying it's not safe environment to set up, and things. Well, that's part of it. If they're in urban areas downtown, as we know in Calgary, pretty much every other liberal-run city, the downtowns are getting extremely dangerous for everybody. But they also were saying that we've been having trouble with getting rid of our systemic racism and all these other things and all this introverted woke crap and talk. They're saying they're going to shut down their own thing because they can't deal with their own woke regulations. Basically, it's just nuts. But that's fine. So we can witness and watch them commit economic suicide. And don't worry, there will be plenty of other independent coffee outlets will open up and won't be so stupid as to get a bunch of employees who are going to sign up for the Steelworkers Union. That's what it was, the Steelworkers Union that signed up these baristas. And they'll be able to serve you coffee and mispronounce your name that's written on the cup, just like Starbucks, and probably at a better price. But it's one of the things making the news. And again, businesses should take note. I mean, we've got some tough economic times coming. Jane and I owned that bar in Prentice, and it was connected with Jane's Cafe, and we made coffee. We had baristas. We made good stuff. It's a tough go. It's narrow margin, I mean, hey, a good barista is worth something. They're worth paying. I'm not saying it's totally without skill, but it's limited, and you've got to get realistic with these things. And well, we'll see where this goes. But the strong will survive in business if government will get out of the way. That's when the things fall off the rails. As soon as government gets mixed around in it. What's this? Theo saying, Cory, did you borrow that shirt from Maxime Bernier? Hey, that's not very nice. I'll have Maxime Bernier on Friday, by the way, if you're wondering. We'll see what kind of shirt he's got on. It's got some color and everything. I'm going to the Stampede grounds today. I'm checking it out. I got to have the Stampede wear on. I still got a terrible memory of being on one of those spinning rides, and I puked all over a babysitter when I was a kid, way many, many years ago. And you see, with this, if I get sick at the Stampede, nobody's going to notice. So if I'm trying one of those cricket hot dogs or something like that, I can just wipe it off, and it's not going to be noticed. That was a mistake that Taves made when he went out in his Western wear, and the media focused, our great old mainstream media, because he had a splotch of mustard or something on his shirt. Big deal. But either way, you're not going to spot it on this thing. So let's see here. Yes, we've got lots going on. I see Paul sitting in the lobby. Hey, I'll pull him in here if he's ready to roll. Let's get on to things other than my fashion sense and talk about what's happening with the Wildrose Independence Party, because I'm kind of concerned about it. So let's see what's up. Hey there, Paul. How's it going?
Going good, Cory. Got to say, you got some good ones today, but I have to start off with, do I have to wear a hat to get on the show?
You don't have to. And as I said earlier, I never do. But again, that was the law laid down by Derek with these darn dress codes. Like, if we're going to get away with this week without wearing a tie, we got to go to full Western wear. So here we go. And I'm complying. I'd still rather wear this thing on my noodle than a necktie.
I would tend to agree, and I've got mine, but I don't know. I don't need it inside. The sun's not shining, and I don't need the protection. But it's great to be here, Cory. And I got to say, you've talked about some good things. I didn't realize that you were a beekeeper. I got into those a few years ago too, and man, they're smart. They know how to look after their own, but you got to intervene every now and then, and it's a problem.
Yeah, it's been. I've really been enjoying it, but I got a sharp learning curve. This is season 1 for these things, and my goal is modest. If I can just keep them surviving through the winter and into spring, I think it's a success. I'll worry about actually producing honey next year.
Well, you might actually get some this year, and I lost mine, I think 3 years ago. I had two hives, lost them in the winter time. And so last year I bought one. I didn't really get hardly any honey, but they survived. I'm excited, and I hope this year I get some honey, but nothing sweeter than a little bit of Alberta honey.
Yeah, well, it's that varroa mite issue, I guess. If you don't keep them maintained, you could end up they'll eat your hive in the winter, basically. But we'll see.
Yep.
So getting back to, we had you on a little while ago. Things were pretty heated, I guess, between yourself and the executive of the Wildrose Independence Party. Now, I mean, we'll need this explained. I know you're still out there. You're serving as leader. You're holding town hall meetings. You did one in Southwood recently. But at the same time, the executive is claiming that they have an interim leader. You're no longer the leader, and they're just moving ahead. What's going on?
Well, like usual, they're not really doing anything in public, but they love meeting their little secret meetings and organizing and I don't know, pontificating on things. But we got to talk to Albertans. It's exciting to be out. There's just so many issues. And, you talked earlier about Tamara. Albertans should be up in arms. Our government should be up in arms and saying, bring her back. I mean, how many years ago was it that we put out $10.5 million to an individual that was supposedly wrongfully, detained? This is just unbelievable to me, and we need some leadership in government to reach out and stop this insanity. And I don't know, it's frustrating. Again, who can believe that we've gone from the wokeism of climatology and the fact that climate is changing, which, by the way, folks, it's always changed, to saying that they're going to reduce fertilizer, and yet in their back breath they talk about humanity and the importance of bringing up, reducing poverty and feeding the world. That their actions actually show who they are. These are not good people. They don't have good motives. They want to hurt humanity. They want people to be dependent on government. They want us to own nothing. And we need some leadership. We need a government that is actually going to be there to protect the individuals, their rights, their life, their liberty, their property, their pursuit of happiness. And all of those things are being undermined. And we just need to get out and I guess reach out to Albertans. And I love your statement, go woke, go broke. Boy, does that pertain to government more than anywhere. Our governments have gone woke, and we're running massive deficits, a 1% interest rates today. What's that going to do to people that their mortgages are coming due? It's shameful.
Yeah, well, and I mean, pivot it back. I mean, we're especially as conservatives, we're sometimes our own worst enemies. Drew Barnes has been the only elected official, really, and it's Tamara Lich is his constituent, and he's been speaking up and speaking out on her behalf. But the silence from the UCP on an Alberta constituent on this, of course, has been deafening. But Drew is also an example of if you speak up too much, you get kicked out of your party. And likewise, I still want to kind of get to questions with the Wildrose Independence Party. You've got an AGM coming up in a week and change. What's going to happen there?
Well, I think our members are going to take our party back. But again, when you're up against a cabal that has, the communications locked down, the website locked down, they basically, put a stranglehold on every area of our membership and putting out their, ridiculous letters and the slanderous letters. They're shooting ourselves in the foot. And it's very discouraging, that I don't know whether you want to call them plants, gangsters, whether they're agents of destruction. You've been fighting the independent movement longer than anything, Cory, and you understand. But boy, you really have to wonder, some of these individuals that they've come in to make sure that we're not successful. And I have great faith in our memberships here on the 23rd of July. At Baymont in Red Deer, our members will take the party back. We can't have a cabal of 10 destroying our party in the future for Alberta.
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted to talk about, because that's what kind of surprised me when I talked with you and Rick Northey recently was, okay, there's some disputes, there's some problems. That's hardly new in the parties. We know that all too well. But when you have an AGM coming that close, that's when ideally you'd say, well, let's throw it out on the floor at the AGM. We're going to have the members here, and this is when we can hash it out, instead of trying to radically change the party 10 days before an AGM and leave members without a choice. So I imagine, you're going to be attending that AGM, and
yes.
I hope it's a productive one.
I think it'll be very productive. And again, one of the sad things that we all realize is what people are like when they're intoxicated or high. And it's a real problem in our society when people get into that. But the thing that I've realized more than anything when it comes to government and power and these institutions is that people become intoxicated and high with power. And again, they're just drunk and not thinking reasonable. And like I say, I have great faith in the members stepping up and saying, we don't need you anymore to tell us what we can and can't do. And you don't respond to our emails, and there's been such a disconnect. And again, it goes back to what we're talking with climate change. These woke individuals and woke politicians who want to reduce fertilizer and take away, cheap fuel that helps, an input into our basic life and living. And it's the same with inside government and our current board. There's a cabal of them. It's not all of them, but the majority. And they've just kind of, like I say, they're grasping at every angle they can. The information is hard to get. We don't even know who's up for elections. And it's very disappointing to see the way they're operating and what they're going to do going into the AGM. But the members are fired up and they want their freedom and they want their party and they want to save Alberta.
That's it. And it is frustrating. I want to see a good competitive election. I want to see multiple parties really making a push. And unfortunately, when you're spending more time putting out fires from within rather than getting ready for an election in less than a year, it makes it difficult. And there is so much to push back. As you said, there's irrational people. And, drunkenness is almost a good comparison. Like I said in my opening monologue, these are World Economic Forum type people. These are elitists. These are ones that don't understand what it is to have difficulty paying the rent or feeding the family. As I said, it's National Frank and Beans Day. I was laughing about that as a comfort food, but that's also a food that you feed when you're a parent because you can't afford much for kids. And these imbeciles are trying to ban fertilizers and fossil fuels. It's absurd, but they're disconnected from the realities of the majority of the world.
Yes, I've said many times, I think I said it last time I was on your show, these are economic imbeciles that are sitting around the table eating chicken nuggets, plotting on how to get rid of chicken farms. And now it's the same thing. Now they're plotting on how to get rid of fertilizer. They don't know what it's for, but they've been told, oh, it hurts the atmosphere. I'm sorry, that's actually, you want to go green? Fertilizer is what produces green, fertilizer and water. And yet they want to attack these things. They want to reduce people's consumption of them. And it's just wrong what they're doing. And there's two things, Cory, I guess that it's really boiling down to is trust and truth. And we have very little trust in our government, in our organizations, whether it's the WHO, whether it's Alberta Healthcare, whatever it is, the Alberta Education. That the trust has been diminished, if not eliminated for many people. And then the truth. And they won't tell the truth. CO2 is not a toxin. It's not a pollutant. It's plant food. And if they went to Biology 30 and studied it, they'd really realize the cycle of CO2 and plants and oxygen and how important it is. But they're about fear-mongering. They're about scaring you. They're about saying that you can't do it on your own. You need big brother, big government there from cradle to grave. And that's their goal. And again, it's disappointing to hear the front runner, who I absolutely say is the best of the pack, is now wanting to give away more money. How about reducing our taxes? How about making healthcare accessible instead of another ploy? And this is a problem that we have in this even so-called conservative movement, is more promises. What we need to do is promise to reduce the size of government. We need to promise to leave money in your pocket, not taxing it. We need to promise to let you have your freedoms, not saying what businesses you can and can't do. We need to reduce the regulations, say, if you want to travel, you can. Give us back our constitutional rights. All of these core issues are being pushed to the side with little trinkets and sparkly items and a few flashing dollars saying, oh, vote for me. And it's sad. And that's why the Wildrose just needs to take back our party on the 23rd and be there for Albertans to actually have something that people can vote and believe in instead of the best of the worst.
Well, and I've seen things that kind of have to get worse before they'll get better. And they are getting worse. And kind of, as I said in my monologue, when people can't pay the bills, when they can't feed the family, they're going to get up. And it doesn't matter how much you warn them about how the temperature is going to go up a degree in 50 years potentially, or a tree frog in some obscure place. They're just worried about their immediate bills, and they're not going to take it. So I guess the goal is, though, there's always that risk when people are ready for radical change because they've had enough. We're just going to make sure it's positive change, because sometimes, of course, when people rush in a panic to change, they can take a negative path as well. So it takes some planning and some electoral options and wisdom, I guess. We got 8 months to work on this.
That's the scary thing, Cory, is that if you wait until you're desperate, till there really is food shortages, till the price is to the point where you can't pay your bills and sustain your family, then you end up with mob mentality. And that's not good. It's terrible. And we need to give that food security, fuel security to Albertans and realize that it is here and we can protect it. But I don't know. It's just so discouraging to look at Trudeau and Biden and the world leaders and their ploy to say, oh, we're going to save the world because the climate catastrophe is here. I mean, even Mayor Gondik, calling a climate emergency. Do these people know what emergency is? No, they don't. The Emergency Act, just that in itself, I've come to realize after the flood in High River in 2013 in Calgary, you got to let people be free to protect themselves, their property, and do things. And when government steps in, I'm sorry, the outcome is diminished, if not, I don't want to say complicated, made worse. And there's just so many opportunities that we have here, and it's critical that we're able to get out and talk to Albertans and let them realize there is a viable option. You don't have to vote for the best of the worst. You can actually vote for what you believe in. And that's what the Wildrose Independence Party is about, and why we're here. And we need people to come out to the AGM and oust this cabal of individuals who want to destroy all of that.
Well, and that's how I kind of want to close it out. So that AGM is in about 10 days. Where can the people find out information, or can they contact you, I guess, because the information from the party is now sort of limited?
I haven't actually gone to my website to see if it's up there, paul@paulhinman.com, but it should be on the party's website, wildrosenation.com. But if not, give us a call at 1-888-262-1888, or email me at paulhinman@gmail.com.
Okay, and the AGM is going to be in Red Deer it's open to all members.
23rd of July at the Baymont.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. I'm pretty sure we'll send somebody from the Standard there to watch. Hopefully, something productive comes out of it. We just want to let everybody know what's happening and let your members sort things out how they will.
Yeah, continuation of Wild Western days.
It is that. All right. Well, thanks, Paul, and good luck in the next little while, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Cory. You take care and keep up the good work. And again, let's support independent news.
Great. Thanks, Paul. So it is Paul Hinman, the leader of the Wildrose Independence Party, or not. It depends whether you ask their executive. There's some confusion, and that's why I wanted to get Paul on, just to clarify some of that. And again, if you're members, if you're concerned, well, this is certainly an AGM you have to get out to. This is the chance when you're on the ground. You can't hide things through emails and through a website or, notices on Twitter. This is face-to-face, and you can find out and ask people just what's going on, whether you got questions for Paul or whether you got questions for the executive. I'd say if you're concerned about that party, you had better get out to that AGM, because there's nothing worse. As I said, I don't have a membership with any party. I certainly have my leanings. This is an opinion show. It'd be pretty boring if I was always totally neutral, but I do want to see competitiveness. I mean, that's a problem we have all over the place. It's a problem we have in the private market. It's a problem we have in politics. The more options people have that are properly building themselves and selling themselves, typically the better the product is going to be. And we need to make sure we have a multi-party system. Let's not let it morph into a two-party system. An NDP, UCP system is stagnant, and that's how you get polarization. That's how you don't get decent ideas that are landing, sometimes in the middle or uniquely. So, check things out, check those parties out, get engaged. That's the important part. Get engaged. Can't sit back, because, hey, if you don't do it, someone's going to do it on your behalf, and they probably won't do what you're really hoping they will. So I'm going to have a quick guest spot in for Andrew Ruland. He's going to come in. He's been on the show before. It was always a fun discussion when he's come on. He's with Integrated Wealth Management, because we have some economic issues to talk about right now that are very important. And with these interest rate hikes, I mean, they're impacting people's finances on many, many levels right now. It's impacting the economy. And I just want to have a quick chat with Andrew and I guess get a rundown on it and how it's impacting folks. So, hey, Andrew, how you doing?
I'm well. Good morning, Cory.
Great. Thanks for coming in today, or at least coming on today, I should say. Usually you come in person, but this was sort of sudden because we knew the interest rates were going to be coming up. But I think the size of this hike and how recently, since the last one that came out of the Bank of Canada, I think it's caught still some people flat-footed and is really sort of giving a bit of a slap to the head.
Yeah, nobody is more flat-footed actually than the central bankers. They basically were laid out of the gate, probably at least a year behind in terms of starting the interest rate hiking cycle. Just based on monetary policy with so much money printing, And so what we saw today from Tiff Macklin, Governor of the Bank of Canada, is basically central bankers panicking because, and it's, I want to be really clear about this. It's not because increasing interest rates at the central bank level is going to actually do much of anything to actually stop the price inflation that we have. But it's political because they've been forced into it by virtue of being kind of a political entity, in addition to being obviously an economic and monetary entity. And the reason why the interest rate increases are not going to have the price dampening effect that a lot of people think that they will is because this is not the price inflation that we're experiencing is not being driven by a robust economy with tons and tons of demand. This is being driven by supply shortfall, and supply shortfall is a direct result of shorter term and longer term policy decisions at the government level, not necessarily the Bank of Canada level. So.
And that's pretty distressing to think, because one thing that raising the interest rates will do, though, is it will chill the economy. I mean, that's sort of the intent if you're thinking you're fighting inflation. I mean, capital projects get deferred or at least scaled back. Mm-hmm. People are less inclined to purchase houses or do business starts if they have to finance. Like yes. These rates are going to have an impact on us, and then we start fearing a recession.
It will have an economic impact unquestionably, but it's not going to do anything for price inflation other than perhaps in the housing market, and most especially in the three highest priced local housing markets, which would be the Greater Toronto Area, the Lower Mainland, and Vancouver Island. And those are the areas where the prices have been ridiculous for quite some time. But the fact is that they have a certain amount of limitations on supply, especially west of us, but also driven substantially by having a lot of demand from net in-migration, and so those are the areas that are going to have to see the biggest price adjustments downward, because the market always finds a certain equilibrium of price and volume, right? It's based on supply and demand. And so when the cost of financing a home goes up and people's wages don't go up as quickly as interest rates go up and the mortgage payments go up, the price of the asset, in this case the home, has to come down so that the payment meets the ability of the buyer to pay.
So we're kind of getting the worst of both out of this then. We're going to get the chilled economy, the pressure on us as individuals, but we aren't going to get the reduction in cost of goods and services. And it sounds like the Bank of Canada is signaling that they're going to carry on and increase these rates more in the coming future.
Yeah, we ain't seen nothing yet is my view. They're just getting started. And I would characterize this as being, all kinds of pain for very little gain in terms of intended result. The problems with the supply chain are mostly policy driven, as I mentioned. Now, so supply chains always are at risk of exogenous events, such as natural disasters, as an example, right? I mean, if you have a hurricane, that's going to close a port. If you have an earthquake, that might close a port and damage some rail lines and highways and all those kinds of things. So supply chains don't need policy decisions that are hurting, right? And when I say policy decisions, I'm talking about on the supply side, particularly with oil and gas. But since the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, basically almost all of the economic pain has been borne by Western countries, because the leaders of the Western countries said, well, we don't want to get into a direct shooting war with Russia. We'll fight to the last Ukrainian and give them lots of arms, but we don't want to get in a direct shooting war with them. So we'll try and punish them with economic sanctions. Well, those economic sanctions are effectively a giant economic boomerang, and they've come back and they have smacked the Western nations in the face.
Well, I mean, I guess, there's a lot to watch and a lot changing, quickly, I guess, before I let you get back to work. Like, for those of us, people, of course, are worried about their investments, their nest eggs. How do you hedge against what looks to be coming here? I mean, are bonds going to start looking a little better if we're getting higher interest rates, or should we just be leaving our portfolios alone? Or what do we do to ride this out?
Okay, that's an hour-long discussion, but
Yeah,
I'll be as brief as I can.
You
So
guys specialize in it, and I know there's a lot more on your website to cover, but
right, rising interest rates are going to hurt bonds. Now, if you're buying bonds fresh, you'll get a higher yield, which is great. There may at some point in the future be some room for capital gains if they have to drop interest rates again, if we get another economic blow. But for the major trend is upwards in inflation and in interest rates. So the fact is that traditional bonds are actually a very unsafe asset class going forward. Stock markets, commodity markets, bond markets, they are all discounting mechanisms. They look out into the future and they price in what they think is going to happen. They usually overshoot both on the upside and the downside. In this case, they priced in a recession, and that recession is being driven by demand destruction from high oil and gas prices. So it's going to take, and fertilizer, natural gas, all those things that we know are a problem. So in terms of what to do in a portfolio, I would say the worst thing to do right now would be to react and turn temporary declines into permanent losses. But that doesn't mean you should be oblivious or passive. Start looking for new ways to actually profit from inflation. And it takes time for stock markets and commodity markets to adjust. But I think that most of the pain is already in, at least I hope so. But longer term, companies raise their dividends. Great companies raise their dividends faster than the rate of inflation, which drives their stock prices back up. And if they're selling a commodity with a long-term upward trend, they will also benefit.
Very well. The most important and first part of advice, of course, was, don't panic. Just work with things with a plan and so on. And that's just where I wanted to lead you, because I know in our quick 10 minutes here, we won't have time to cover it all, but that's your specialty. I mean, you hold entire webinars and things such as that to help people with all those sorts of things. So maybe, before I let you go, then where can people find more information? Because a lot of people are worried and concerned. I mean, they've been saving, their retirement's looming, or maybe they're already retired. They want to make sure that they can weather this storm.
Well, as you can see by the backdrop, we're Integrated Wealth Management, and you can type in integratedwealthmanagement.ca. And we also have a new web domain. It's i-wealth.ca. So integratedwealthmanagement.ca or i-wealth.ca.
Great. Well, thanks for coming to, explain a little bit what's going on with this. It's important to know those differences. For example, as you said, there's different types of things pushing inflation. If it was a red hot economy, that's one thing, because at least it means things are moving. But if it's supply chain, then you really got to be careful with that economy, because you cool that down, we're going to make a lot of trouble.
Yep. This is cost push, not demand pull.
All right. Well, thanks. Maybe we'll check in as things develop down the road here. And I appreciate your input today, Andrew.
My pleasure. Have a good day.
Great, thanks. So that was Andrew Ruland with Integrated Wealth Management. As I said, we can look him up. And it's hard with this show being live with such big and complex issues. You can only catch so much in a short visit. But we covered a bit of that ground, because those interest rates really are sending some shockwaves through people and their investments and things like that. And we've got to be careful. And as Andrew said, just don't panic. Plan. Be careful. Look at the long game. And as I do anyways, I'm not saying looking at the long game, I'm not great with investment strategy and things like that. That's why I look to experts such as those, at wealth planners and things like that. Or often, my wife, Jane, who knows a hell of a lot more about these things than I do. There's those things in life. If you want to make your life better, defer to the experts. You can't be an expert in everything. You're going to get in trouble if you try. Especially with something as important as your retirement or your income. Hey, if it's not your forte, take it and let somebody who knows what they're doing deal with it. All right, just a question. I see a commenter, was it Jay Rad, saying having challenges with the subscribing, getting a spinning wheel on the Western Standard side. I'm not sure. I believe if you email info@westernstandard.news, somebody in operations can help you out if there were some issues with the subscription. I appreciate you trying to subscribe, though. We want to get you in there. I don't want to discourage. It's a new site. Sometimes there's a few bugs and things, but keep at it. Honest, it works for most people. It's probably just a little thing. As I get issues like that too, trying to buy things online. Same sort of thing. I always dump it always on Jane. If I want to find something on Amazon or whatever, I don't want to set up the account and figure out all that stuff. I just dump it on my wife, Jane, and get her to buy it on my behalf. It's laziness on my part, but hey, I don't make her write columns for me or anything. So let's see. Ashley saying, how's a country no bigger than Alberta causing food shortages and soaring gas prices? You're talking about Ukraine, I imagine. Well, that's tied in with Russia, which is much, much bigger than Canada, even much less Alberta. And they were the ones, supplying a lot of oil and gas to a whole lot of the West. It's kind of like Andrew was talking about, though, when other countries are saying, well, we're not going to take that product anymore. Well, that impacts the markets, and they're trying to get more of the oil and gas from elsewhere, and it's going to put the prices up. Likewise, food shortages. Ukraine, though, is as much as it's smaller than Alberta, it is a bread basket. It's a main food producer in Europe. It's like Canada as well, in the sense that they exported, or at least far, far more than they ever brought in. So when they cut their crops, because they're in the middle of a war, they're not seeding and harvesting nearly as much. It's going to impact the world prices. That's just the way it goes. And Jet Gorgon saying, yeah, China and India are still trading with Russia. Yeah, and there's the futility of some of these trying to fight back economically in this, in that people want the oil and gas. That's that denial. That's that foolishness going on out there in the world and everything. These lunatics who think we're beyond oil and gas. Look at all the idiots. How long ago were people saying oil is dead? No, it's not even close. And if it's a world market. So yeah, China and India, if Germany and the others are saying they don't want Russian products, China and India, so we'll take it. Yeah, bring it over here. And you know what? China and India would be overjoyed to get, say, Canadian liquid natural gas, but we're busy punching ourselves in the balls and shutting off our terminals before we even get them built. The Trans Mountain pipeline, I'll be lucky if my great-grandchildren see oil going through that thing. I know. Every time I mention it, people go, we're working on it. I know you're working on it. It's not your fault. It's not the fault of the guys on the ground and the gals on the ground working their butts off trying to get this thing going. It's because, of course, when government manages anything, it stinks. And so, yeah, we are really being foolish. We could be making it like bandits right now. If we had a liquid natural gas terminal feeding the East Coast, and we had one on the West Coast right now, and we had Energy East taking oil products east, if we had a pipeline taking oil down to the Keystone, and we had the Trans Mountain expansion, and maybe even the Northern Gateway, with world oil prices right now, Canada would be one of the richest nations on the planet. We would have the world by the tail. We'd be doing fantastic, because we'd be filling that void all over, whether we're selling it to Europe, whether we're selling it to India, it doesn't matter. It's a world market. Unfortunately, we've had Prime Minister Ding Dong for the last few years shutting all of that stuff in, including fertilizer. We're having problems with capital projects. Saskatchewan with their potash mining, fantastic resource, but we aren't developing it nearly fast enough to keep up with what's going on right now. Maddening. Let's see what else we got going on. Speaking of, some economics. So yeah, the Rogers hearings are opening on Friday, I guess. We have a committee is being held over the whole Rogers outage. What a wake-up call, speaking of those, for a whole lot of people. One company has an issue, which they never really said what that issue was, but it shut them down for, 15 hours? Well, what a catastrophe. I didn't know. I don't pay attention to these things. I didn't realize that basically you can't buy anything with debit in Canada if Rogers isn't running in full. Again, I got credit cards. It had limited impact on me because I had credit and I used TELUS. But for anybody who didn't have a credit card at their disposal, didn't have cash, and had to rely on debit, they were screwed for 15 hours. If they relied on a Rogers phone, they had no communications for that long. And of course, they want to follow through and wonder about what's going on. 12 million subscribers, had that issue. And but what we need is more competition. Why is one company impacting so much? Now, you see, there's where we get difficult. I see the government, people start talking about antitrust and forcing to break them up and everything. I'm more of the opposite route. Open it up, let some more smaller companies get in and get operating, quit over-regulating the crap out of this thing. And that will drive some competition. Why is it impossible with a business, if it's got a debit system, to, in the case of an emergency or an event like this, why is it impossible for them not to transfer to another service until things are resolved? And maybe that's some of the things this committee is going to discuss. But boy, what a vulnerability we found ourselves with. But again, the solution is often the opposite direction of what we need. To have the government strangle it more, regulate it more, that's what led us to having only really a handful of major providers up here. We need a bunch of them. We need a bunch of internet providers, a bunch of phone providers, and I assure you, your prices will come down and your service will get better. Canada has some of the highest cell and data rates on the planet by far. And the reason is they can get away with it because we've got only a handful of providers. So, let's examine these things. Okay, I'm going to speak about one of our sponsors quickly here, and that's the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. Before we get on to, it looks like almost ready for a Stampede ground update there in a little bit here. So the Canadian Shooting Sports Association, they have been a great sponsor for us for a while. And yes, if you own firearms, you're considering owning firearms, or if you just support the rights for property and firearms owners out there, you should be a member with these guys. Take a membership out. They advocate for you. They have resources for you. They keep you up on the news. They show you where there's trade shows, events. They give videos where you can, learn things, different ways of utilizing firearms in a safe way. Check them out, guys. If you don't stand up for yourself, you're going to lose them. We have a government that wants to take your firearms away. We have to get together. You have to organize. You have to stand up for yourself, or you're going to lose it. And the way to do that, the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. Check them out. You can Google it, Canadian Shooting Sports Association, or go to cssa-cila.org. Take out a membership. It's not that much. It's well worth it, and it's an investment in yourself and your rights. Okay, it looks like Melanie's ready to go down there on the midway at the Stampede ground. So let's cut over to her and see what's going on down there today. If she's ready to roll. There we go.
Hey, Cory. Just so you know, again, we're not able to hear back at the studio, but I'm sure you can hear us. We are down at the Stampede grounds right now. We're talking to Kyle Russell. He is the director of programming down here. Basically, all that you see that is entertainment, midway, performances, that is what Kyle oversees. And if you're noticing, the Coke stage has moved to a new location on the grounds this year. Why is that, Kyle?
Well, the old Coke stage location was iconic, but unfortunately, because we're constructing the 17th Avenue extension, we need to find a new home for the Coke stage, and we think this is a pretty good home for it.
Yeah, it's good. I think the thing that's nice about it is it's bigger and it allows for a bigger crowd.
Very open. We welcomed 8,000 people here the other night for Alexis on Fire, and everyone's having a great time. It does leave a lot of elbow room, but has a great festival feel, very Coachella when you look at the Ferris wheel right behind the stage here.
Yeah, it is good. So Rob, take a pan around. You're kind of right in the heart of the midway here in this new location, so that's great. And we're on Wednesday. It is Kids Day, but still plenty of opportunity for people to take in some of the entertainment that's still to come. Tell us about what people can look forward to.
Well, our dog bowl is back, and it is very popular. We know families absolutely love that. At BMO Kids Zone this year, we have meet and greets with Paw Patrol and Bob the Builder. We have a great Stampede powwow that's taking place today and tomorrow. And every night in Nashville North, the Big Four Roadhouse and the Coca-Cola stage, we have great headline artists performing.
Yeah, so speaking of some of the headlines, you said Alexis on Fire was just a huge one. Who else are you anticipating to be a big draw between now and Sunday?
Almost all of them. Like Alicia Cara is playing on Sunday night, which is going to be a great way to close out the Stampede. Cascade is playing here, who's a huge EDM DJ that we're really looking forward to. And in the Big Four Roadhouse, we've got some pretty interesting names. Sublime with Rome will be playing tomorrow night. And DJ Jazzy Jeff is going to come on Saturday night.
DJ Jazzy Jeff is going. I'm an 80s girl. I'm coming for that one.
You'll love that one. That's going to be a great show. And that's a great environment. It's got a real roadhouse feel. So think of Mechanical Bulls mixed with your favorite Fresh Prince song, and that's going to be a great time.
So this must be a busy job for you. You're not only sort of overseeing all of the acts that are coming to Coke Stage and elsewhere, but entertainment for all the kids too.
You got it. We really look to make sure that there's something for everybody here at Stampede. So whether you're just a wee toddler and you're looking to have a great day in the morning, or you're looking to have a great night into the evening at the Bell Grandstand Show, we've got something for everybody here.
Now, for the Grandstand Show, do you oversee that as well? What can you tell us about that this year?
Well, we like to think of the Bell Grandstand Show as a 70-minute Super Bowl halftime show. So we've got everything in there from Luke Rollins from America's Got Talent, who's doing trick roping with fire. We have Shawnee Kitch doing a segment that's an homage to venues in Calgary. And then we have it kicks off with a concert from Dean Brody. So whether you love music, whether you love acrobatics, or whether you love technology spectacle, we've got it.
And the fireworks.
the fireworks for sure. The fireworks are spectacular. This year, the fireworks are accompanied by a drone show as well. So you'll see a coordinated drone show up in the sky playing alongside about 15 minutes of fireworks.
Yeah, very cool. I've seen certain grandstand shows where it almost seemed like a Cirque du Soleil type performance. They've been incredible over the years. You must be really happy to be kind of getting back to this, hey?
We're thrilled, and we're just thrilled that the guests are having a good time. We know it's been busy. We've been having record days down here at Stampede Park, but everyone's just so happy to be out again.
Oh my gosh, it is so true. I would agree with that. And again, it's Kids Day. One of the things I was going to ask, because I've actually had quite a few people ask me, can people still buy rodeo tickets and tickets for the grandstand show? Are there still some available?
Oh, definitely. You can buy them online at calgarystampede.com, or else if you come down to the grounds and you just want to get a standby ticket, we do have standing room, and we do have standby tickets available when you come down here too at the ticket booths there.
Okay, so there you go. There is still plenty of opportunity for you to get in and check out some of the grandstand offerings, the rodeo. Of course, Coke Stage is totally free. So Nashville North also totally free?
Free, yep.
Yeah, so still, you know what? Plenty of entertainment that is really included in that admission price you pay to get into the Stampede, and hopefully you grabbed some deals on some of those admission prices that were kind of spread out for you to pick up in other locations. But still lots to come, and the weather has been amazing this year.
Weather has been incredible. We want to remind folks to stay hydrated. We do have plenty of spaces inside if you want to cool off and enjoy some entertainment as well. The Big Four Roadhouse, the Dog Bowl is inside. All these are great spaces to come in and enjoy a respite from the heat.
That's awesome. Thanks very much, Kyle. And being that it is Kids Day, we are going to try to find some kids that are going to tell us what they're most excited about for the Stampede this year. So, Cory, hold on. We will hopefully be back with you in just a little bit and see if we can chat with some kids around here.
And okay, guys, thank you for the comments to remind us. Yes, as we go back and forth into different hits, we sometimes can miss a button now and then. So where the hell was I again? Yes. So that was our Melanie Risdon down on the grounds in the Stampede, of course, as you gathered. As one of the commenters was pointing out that it doesn't look busy, but yeah, that's the new Coca-Cola stage location. There was an older one, and I was just talking about that. The old Coca-Cola stage was over on the other end of the park back then. And there used to be acts, like I said, Trooper would come out every year, Honeymoon Suite, you name them. You'd see the regular things, the Hypnotists. I kind of liked it because I'm not a big concert guy. I don't plan ahead, go to some giant expensive thing. You can actually get some good acts at that stage and maybe just take in 20 minutes of it and then wander off to do something else or whatever. You're not committing a whole night. What's this, Lisa? He's saying, yeah, Terry Stokes. I think that was one of those hypnotists or something. And, just a reminder to get down there. As I said, we're really focusing on the Stampede this year just because it's been years and people are due for it. It's been a while. I'll be going down there tonight, and it'll be the first time I've been down there in a lot of years, despite the, pandemic. I can only go so often, but it looks like it's a really good one. The weather's really good, and Mel will check in a little later. And yeah, that Coke stage, it looks like a nice one. It's a new one. The old one was getting a little long in the tooth. I think my daughter went the other night to catch July Talk and Beaches, I think it was. And, they're a good band. The July Talk, that Canadian one, actually, they got some good ones. Beaches, I think if I recall, that's kind of that crabby woman band. They sing about an itty bitty titty committee or something like that. But either way, there's something for every taste down there at the stage and at the Stampede this year. So, get on and check it out. We'll have Melanie on a little later to talk some more about it. So let's get on to a little more new stuff here. Yeah, this was something yesterday I wanted to get to, but I didn't. But CBC producers, this is during the last election. and they did one of their specials where they're going to have the voters ask questions of the leaders. Well, it turns out when Aaron O'Toole came on in this election campaign broadcast, the CBC made sure that all the participants' questions were focused and phrased effectively. What it basically was saying was they stuck the words in the mouth. This is astroturfing. This is the kind of crap that our state broadcaster does. They make it look like it's grassroots, make it look like it's people actually asking legitimate questions, but they filter it, and it's just going to be, the mush that they want to feed you. And it's fake news. Unfortunately, it's fake news. We got to pay $1.4 billion a year to have, but that impacts elections. People don't, a lot of the time, they don't pay attention to, politics in general until election time. Then they'll suddenly start turning on the news, at least to get a quick fill on who's who and what's what. And when you get that biased garbage coming out of the CBC, when they model programs like that, and, oh, look, I saw 4 questions asked of Aaron O'Toole. And of course, they're questions that he didn't want to answer. They're questions that the CBC wanted asked. And it misrepresents what people really want to ask about. And that's sneaky fake news. That's not even as bad as, again, hey, we're out in the open. I'm an opinion show. I put out my opinion. We're not hiding that, but we don't put opinion into our news. Dave is very meticulous about that. That's important. News is news. If I interview guests, if I have people on here, I don't filter what they're allowed to say or not. Or, with questions, if I was soliciting questions from people, I'm not going to tell them what they have to ask. What's the point of asking? But that's our CBC in action. That's the your tax dollars at work. And there's another story Nico pulled up. Yeah, CBC reporter resigned. We're seeing a lot of those and saying the broadcasters losing journalistic principles. I think they lost them a long time ago. And there's just more evidence all the time. Just a quick thing back to the Stampede again. Lori Carter saying feeding people crickets and mealworms, way to go, Calgary. Yeah, but they've been doing that at the Midway for decades. They've always, every year, tried to come up with a weird food, scorpion pizzas and deep fried mustard or who knows what. They do all sorts of things, garlic ice creams. It's just part of the fun and novelty. Different from where we got that crazed push, with our tax dollars subsidizing cricket farms in Ontario and crap like that. The area of eating insects should be the domain of either novelty foods on the Midway like this, or the reality. The only people who eat insects around the world typically are people in third world countries. The reason they became delicacies is because it was the only thing they could eat. I think it was Karen Selleck, one of our columnists, who wrote about that, saying, if any of the people in the areas where crickets are eaten and insects are eaten and things like that, if they had the choice between a steak and their local delicacy of an insect, they're still going to go for the steak. But either way, like you say, you have fun, you think of those things because it's harmless, even if it's gross, maybe eating insects, a couple of kids, I dare you to eat that, I dare you to try that, all sorts of things like that. And as was pointed out too, there's and I've lost my train of thought. At least I'm not having coughing fits today anyways. It's Kids Day down on the Midway too. So if you got a family, today's the good one. I think kids get in free. If you get in before, it's too late now. If you're in before 10 a.m., you could get in for, all of you get in free. Of course, they'll make their money on the Midway, assuming you buy other stuff too. What's this? Cheese's Crust, isn't that a nice name? Lobster and shrimp are basically sea cockroaches. Yeah, I try not to think about it because I like lobster and shrimp and crabs. Or when I used to work down in Texas and Louisiana and get those mud bugs, as crayfish. As long as you don't think about what they are, they're tasty. But we eat our things. I don't care. Just as long as our tax dollars aren't in it. Let us choose. If you don't like these things, don't eat them. But Brenda's saying they're already adding them to packaged food. Yeah, but they do have to label it. So it's not snuck into our food. And I don't think consumers are going to accept it. I heard somebody saying they're using it for filler on potato chips or something. Well, what a great way to commit suicide as a company for your potato chips. So go to town, because people will go out of their way not to buy your stuff. So again, do it all you want. Just keep my tax dollars out of it. But that's a big ask, isn't it? This is Canada. We can't do anything without having our government in the middle of it, can we? We're incapable of thinking things for ourselves. Yeah, nuts. Let's see. Here's a briefing. The Department of Canadian Heritage has sidestepped public comment on allowing biological men to compete as women. How long is this got to go on? How long is this denial of biological reality going to go on? How long is this debate have to go on? We finally pushed ourselves so far into the realm of woke absurdity that we're supposed to indulge and pretend that there's no difference, no physiological difference even, between a woman and a man. I mean, that, purple-haired soccer player down in the States, that woman, I don't remember her name, but I mean, she was the big celebrity, the big lefty, and the American team, I guess, was doing good. I don't know, it's been noted, I don't watch a lot of soccer, but she's certainly outspoken. And I laughed when she talked, and she used the words, said it's disgusting, when it turned out some association had banned biological men from competing in women's cycling sports. But her own team, the top women's team in the world, I believe at the time, had been beaten by a 15-year-old boys team. They played like a recreational match or whatever against a high school team. They're probably good, but they got beaten by 15-year-olds. That tells you the physiological advantage. I mean, the women's team, the women's national team, they've been training for years. The best of women couldn't take on a male 15-year-old team. It's because the difference. There's 15-year-olds that are, still 10 inches taller and more muscle mass and everything else than your average woman. You can't fight that. But the heritage doesn't even want to touch it. And it's ruining sport. It's ruining it. It's terribly unfair for women and young ladies who worked so hard to get to the pinnacle of where they were in their sport to be pushed down because of this woke denial of physiological reality and having to compete with somebody who has a literal born advantage over them. I mean, it was just nuts with that swimmer. I'm surprised his balls weren't popping out of his suit when he was standing there getting his medal as he towers over the two women that he beat in the swimming competition. A level of pride that loser has, because he couldn't compete against, and I'm going to say I'm tired of this getting crap for misgendering. Come on. No, I'm not going to give you the she, until you've come to me and presented yourself and told me that. I don't have a problem with transgender people. If that makes you happy and that's the way you're going and you want to be called a she or he, good, let me know, and absolutely, and I hope your life is as happy and productive as possible. But we've still got to face those realities, and I think it's not the majority of trans people that are pushing this crap. I'm sure of it. It's the activists. But it's getting pressure pushed back against all of the transgender people, the ones who just want to live their life and be happier. But it doesn't help when we have idiots like these guys with the Heritage, Department of Heritage, just terrified to even touch it. Get on it. Show some courage, for crying out loud. And we're seeing some pushback. I did laugh kind of with Bette Midler, a good woke left-wing celebrity, and finally losing it because, they're taking away gender. They are. And basically when they do that, they're telling women, you can't be proud to be a woman. You can't identify as a woman. You can't say you're a woman. You have to be an it, zer, zat, bip, bop, whatever the hell it is this hour. And she said, I'm not a birther. I'm not a menstruator, because that's the terms that are getting applied to them now. I mean, I only feel a little bit sorry for Bette Midler, because, she's having her womanhood stolen from her by these extreme activists who are being indulged by these assholes in government and people like the Department of, Canadian Heritage. But at the same time, she fostered these left-wing loon balls for years as well. She didn't speak up until they were already well entrenched with this lunacy. They indulged and fed these guys. You're eating your own now. The woke are eating the woke, and they always will. You let them go. It's never enough. It's never enough. Maybe they've crossed, though, when you see somebody at least like Midler speaking up because she's had enough, But man, how long have we got to keep indulging this craziness? Again, be trans, but it doesn't make it so. We just do as much as possible to make it so. There's some people who identify as Napoleon, but we're not going to give them 3 divisions and send them to Russia. We do what we can. Let's see where else we're going here. File shuffling cost millions. Yeah, taxpayers lost millions in benefits paid to undeserving claimants under the CPP, says a federal audit. Speaking of government incompetence and inability to efficiently run pretty much anything, here's another one of them, right? This is CRA and our CPP, unfortunately. This gets into an area, I guess you could talk, if we want to get a provincial pension plan or not. Hopefully we could learn and make sure it's better managed than the federal one. Unfortunately, a provincial institution is just as well capable of screwing up as a federal one. But let's learn from these things. So overpayments cost at least $79 million over a period from 2010 to 2018. Now, with something the size of the Canada Pension Plan and the amount of people claiming, it sounds like a drop in the bucket, but hey, 79 million is 79 million. That's an attitude that's got to change for apologists and government people and others too. When they say, oh, look at our budget, though, it's 100 billion. What's 79 million? You know what 79 million is? It's $79 million. It's 790 $100,000 increments of money that could have been put into a whole lot of productive areas. That's 790 people who could have their life changed for that amount of money. When you ass clowns dismiss numbers like that and say it's paltry, it's not a big deal, we can overlook it, we can let it go, that's a slap in the face. I want you guys, they're my dollars. They're my dollars. We're entrusting you with our dollars. And we want to make sure you're responsibly using them. And if you aren't, and I want even the small stuff responsibly watched, you don't deserve to be watching it. All right, looks like Melanie's rounded up some youngsters she's going to talk to down on the Stampede ground. So we're going to check in one more time on the midway and see what's happening there, and we'll get back to some more news.
Hey, Cory. So we're still at the Stampede grounds, and it is Kids Day. It's BMO Kids Day, and this place is packed with kids having a blast down here. This was one of my favorites, I have to admit, this big, gigantic slide. So there's a big lineup of kids here, and I've got some kids here we're gonna talk to and just find out. What's your name?
Kai.
Kyle? Kai. Okay, and what's your name?
Cristiano.
Okay, and so guys, you're down here to go on this ride and do all sorts of fun stuff. What are you most excited to check out?
The Crazy Mouse.
Crazy Mouse, is that a ride?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you been on a few rides yet today? No, not yet. Okay. And how about you? What are you looking forward to?
The cotton candy hot dog.
Cotton candy hot dog. So you're here for the food. Okay. And what's your favorite food down here at the grounds?
I've never been here.
You've never been here. Where are you from? Are you Calgarian?
No. I'm from Edmonton.
Oh, from Edmonton. All right. Well, welcome. Welcome to the Calgary Stampede. You guys come on, move along in the line here, and we'll get you on your ride. I'm telling you, this was one of my favorites. So what else are you guys going to get up to today?
The rodeo.
Oh, do you have tickets for the rodeo? That's going to be a lot of fun. I know. I checked out the rodeo the other day. It was really good. You guys are going to have a great time. What's your favorite event at the rodeo?
I don't know. I've never gone.
Okay, well, the bucking broncs are very exciting, so you will very much enjoy that. So again, Cory, loads of kids down here today, but amazingly, the lineups are not that bad. We've got another parent over here. He's got some kids that are just getting off the ride over here. We're going to check in with them. So BMO Kids Day, of course, goes all day, and so you guys are down here, Calgary family, taking in the Stampede. You guys come every year?
Yeah, no, it's actually the first time we've been able to come in quite a few years. So.
All right, and so you're on duty with 3 or 4 kids here?
4 little ones, yeah.
Oh, that's a big job, and they just got off the ride here. We were going to check in with them. Did we catch them? They scattered. All right. So what are you guys looking forward to doing the most here today?
I know the kids were looking forward to the Ring of Fire. So they've just done one round on it, trying to get back on another round of it again. So we'll see. It just depends. The lineup's pretty long, so
yeah,
they've been enjoying that. So. Yeah.
And have you guys checked out the dog show?
No, not yet. We didn't even know that was there. So.
Oh my goodness, the dog show is adorable. You'll have to check it out. There's little schedules. I think there's one right there. There's schedules where you can see, but the dog show is super fun. This is one of them. Come on over. Let's. So, why don't you tell me your first name?
Kiara.
Kiara, and what is your biggest excitement coming to the Stampede this year?
Probably spending time with my family, seeing friends and stuff.
And have you been on many rides, or was this your first one?
I've been on a few.
How are you finding the lineups today for Kids Day?
Not that fun.
No, lineups are never fun, are they? Anything else? What's your favorite food down here? Do you have something that you're looking forward to trying?
I haven't had anything, but I'm thinking of maybe trying like the poutine here.
Oh yeah, poutine is always good. Did you hear they have food down here with crickets in it? They have a cricket hot dog.
Ew.
So you won't be trying that one?
No.
Of course, mini donuts are always a favorite with the kids, cotton candy, and the Slurpee stations all over the place to cool the kids down. So you guys have a blast, and you said you're from Calgary, right?
Yeah. My parents are both from South Africa, so is my grandma.
Oh, very cool. All right. Well, you guys have a blast here. Did you want to come over? No? Oh, we have a few shy ones. All right. So, Cory, yeah, lots of kids down here, lots of fun. So we will be checking in again tomorrow. And I believe tomorrow we're going to be talking with a cowboy, a real cowboy.
Right on. Okay, so that was... I'm muted this time. Good. Melanie Risdon from the grounds. And she got to check in with a real cowboy. That's her way of saying yes, because I'm the fake cosplay cowboy here. But that's the way it happens. I see Mark Bass asking about, is the Stampede basically like a rodeo? So yeah, the Stampede's like a fair, but it's focused around the rodeo. Like it started with the rodeo and really expanded into that. It's a little different than other spots. And somebody mentioned K-Days, it's called now. It used to be Klondike Days. I think I saw one of the commenters talk about it. It used to be a lot more fun with a lot of dancing around and things. And the difference with the Stampede and K-Days, and K-Days in Edmonton's a good time. I've been to that before too. It's a lot of all the same rides and stage and acts all go to Edmonton for it, but they don't have that rodeo anchor. And the whole city doesn't go kind of nuts for a week like Calgary does with the Stampede. As we see, I can wear this stuff to get out of wearing a necktie. Basically, a tradition in Calgary is no matter what your business dress code is, you're allowed to dress Western, wear some jeans, and do some things during Stampede week. So, I mean, you kind of see it everywhere. Businesses decorate. They put their hay bales out front. They hold their pancake breakfast. Like the whole city gets going, not just the Midway. But Mel's down at the Midway, and it's just that reminder to people. It's a good, if you can afford it. I know it's never cheap to go to those things, but today's a good one because if you got a bunch of kids, the kids are coming in free, and you can get a taste of things. Some of those shows she was talking about, yeah, the Dog Bowl. It used to be called Super Dogs, but they have all those trained dogs and everything. People like that for a good break. You get in, sit in the stands, and all those trained dogs have fun. Calms the kids down, doesn't cost you a bunch. Maybe get some air-conditioned time. I know some people keep putting out the eating of bugs. Yes, but this has been happening forever. That's always been a Stampede thing. I know we're kind of tying up two issues. We do have a government that's fixated on subsidizing cricket farms and putting bugs into our food and crap like that. The Stampede one, as I said, that's fairground novelty. That's still okay as far as I'm concerned. Go for it. Tracy's saying the corral isn't there anymore, isn't it? No, they tore the corral down this year. They did, and they're building a bunch of new stuff. But that is down. It's gone. But it is a good time. Yeah, there's Shane saying he loves the dog show. Yeah, that was always a favorite. And again, that always used to be in the corral, so I'm not sure where they're doing it this year. I'll see tonight, because it used to be the way you could get a break too. You'd take the kids. My kids would be all wound up. You'd be in the lineups. You'd be in the, spending all the money on the concessions, and that just comes with it. Well, let's get them in to wind them down, watch the dogs for a while in the corral, get some air conditioning, get out of the heat. And either way, check it out this year. It looks like a good Stampede for a change. We need to live a little. We need to enjoy life a little. And hey, this is coming from a guy who bitches for a living. I'm always angry. I'm sour about things, but honestly, I'm positive about some things. We've got a lot of challenges still coming. We still got all sorts of political issues to address, and I'm going to. But, get out and cut loose now and then, whether it's K-Days next week or Stampede this week, and just relax a bit. As I said, not all of it has to be at the grounds. That's the thing that's a bit different. I don't know the names of them. There's that huge tent on 9th Avenue with a stage and bands going on over there. Another one over on 6th Avenue. The whole city's going wild. Mark Bass saying, do they have concerts? Yeah, there's concerts all the way through. As Mel Risdon was at the Coca-Cola stage earlier, that's where the free concerts are. As long as you're in the grounds, you get those. And those are decent bands. They're good ones. And then the real A-listers, there'll usually be other concerts held right in the Saddle Dome itself. It's just a week of a bit of everything. And rodeos, the chuck wagon races. it's quite an event, and it's a good day to get out for a lot of folks. And for those who don't, like Lori, well, don't. But I'm going out tonight. Should be fun. First time I've been there in years. Jane actually has some of her barn quilts displayed there. She does barn quilts and teaches courses in it and everything. And some of them are actually displayed somewhere in there. So of course we got to go and check those out. So let's see. Jet Gorgon saying, remember the chocolate-covered crickets and bees. Yeah, again, when it's novelty. And then think of bees. I'm keeping bees this year, as I said, and stuff. If you really want to break down what honey is, actually, it sounds pretty friggin' gross, guys. Sometimes with some of our food, it's better just not to think about it. And then we can enjoy it. No sense digging down. Like I said, I still like hot dogs. I don't like to think about what they're made of. I'm not going to pretend they're good for you. Still like eating them now and then. And I got a feeling there's probably always been a degree of insect matter within those things anyways. All right, let's look at a little more news stuff. We've been covering a lot of Stampede. We're going to talk about a bit more of it tomorrow. I said Melanie's going to talk to somebody at the rodeo. We'll get onto that aspect of the Stampede, which is going on down there. And we're holding that. Speaking of it, if you want to piss off the woke, go to the rodeo, go to the chuck wagon races. They used to be out protesting outside those things back in the 80s when I go to the Stampede. I'm sure they're still out there whining about it. So get out there and do that. All right. Let's see. So, yeah, this was something Dave mentioned the other day. I didn't get a chance to get to it. This is our money at work, right? $633,000 spent in the Yukon to save French, right? For French speakers. In the whole Yukon, 85 unilingual francophones that they can find. I mean, it's very sparsely populated. I know, I've worked up there. Whitehorse is a large, small town in all reality. It's the biggest city they got, but it's small. So we're spending $660,000 to indulge 85 unilingual francophones. That's ridiculous. And this is happening across the country. The only reason it stands out so much there is because you can see how absurdly low that number is. And that's what we got to talk about is unilingual French speakers. Because we get French speakers, we got a degree of them in Alberta, I think, maybe 2% of the province. And those typically aren't unilingual. It's just French is their first language. They speak English quite well. And we spend billions on bilingualism. I mean, when you talk about the preferential hiring and the language programs and all the rest of the crap, forcing me to try and learn French in high school, even in a province where nobody speaks it, nobody needs it. And teach me something useful like Swahili or something. When am I going to speak French? I speak better Spanish than French, and most of that, unfortunately, is obscenities. Either way, that's our money at work, right? So the Yukon, yeah, that works out to what does that work out to person? 80,000 each or something, and that's in a year. We're not talking over years and years and years. This is the money they're pouring down. Let's see some other news. Just updates on that mess as they investigate the horrible shooting of 22 people in Nova Scotia a couple of years ago. And that denture maker, but it really sounds like this guy was as we're learning about him, I mean, quite a known whack job and a dangerous person. He'd been released and arrested and charged and things for decades. Some of this stuff with the testimony, I guess somebody bought dentures off and missed a monthly payment, and he grabbed this person, tackled them, and put a knee on their chest and ripped the dentures out of his or her mouth and stomped on them. This guy was a Fruit Loop. And a dangerous one, unfortunately. He assaulted a 15-year-old outside of his clinic in 2001. He punched him in the head. He's had class action suits against him. This is where it gets difficult. So people are saying, though, if you knew all this about him, why wasn't he already locked up? And even with that history, would anybody imagine he was going to pick up guns and slaughter 22 people on a rampage? I mean, you can't see that. But at the same time, was he released too many times? Did we miss some warning signs? Did we? Was there possibly a way we could have prevented that awful event? I don't know. But as we drill down, and unfortunately, we got the Liberal government that is, interfering in investigations. I don't know if we'll get good, knowledge out of this. I mean, we want to learn from these. We screw things up. Fine. Well, it's not fine, but all the same. Let's try not to repeat them. So let's dig into that and find out what the history of this guy was, what the responses were, and hope that bloody government stays out as much as possible, and maybe we can figure that out. Let's see, I'll wrap up with one civic thing. Yeah, here's some advocates, the apologists, the excuse makers, and they're talking, and we're seeing that. I saw another CBC story talking about how, we gotta, the LRT, yeah, I know there's addicts on it, but we gotta quit talking about just enforcement. No, we don't. No, we don't. Look, I have discussed addiction many, many, many times on this show. I've had experts, Dr. Monty Gosh. I talked to a member of the state legislature in Oregon about drug decriminalization. I've talked many times on this issue. I do believe in why we need to treat addicts and work with homelessness and do things like that. But we also have to accept they don't belong in the damn transit system. They don't. This is a simple problem to solve. It really is. It takes hard work, but it's simple. Get them off there. People don't feel safe on the train. They don't feel safe on the bus. They don't feel safe on the shelters. And it's not just a matter of not feeling safe. They aren't safe. People have been stabbed. People have been assaulted. People have been intimidated. So clean it up. Yes, it doesn't mean the problem of addiction and homelessness is gone once they're cleaned off the transit system. They still have to go somewhere. These are still people in need of help once they've left it. But you got to understand, this is not where they belong. They are trains, not traveling consumption sites. They're stations, not homeless shelters. The bus shelters are for people waiting for the bus, not a guy who wants to shoot up without the wind blowing on him. So get them off of there. Enforce the law. Start charging for those tickets, and you'll get rid of 90% of the problems in those trains. Put some people to work. Get them there. Stand there like every other modern developed city in the world. And don't use the stinking honor system about whether a person pays for their ticket to ride the train or not. Just don't try to tell me that guy who crapped his pants, who's standing by his shopping cart in the middle of the train car, who's screaming at people, spent $3.60 for that ride. He still will be a man with full pants and an empty head when you get him off that train, but at least he's not where he doesn't belong any longer. Then we can work on what his other issues are, the mental health aid that this person will need in the addictions treatment. But quit mixing them with everybody else and then telling us that we're being selfish or nasty or insensitive when we complain and say we don't want to ride the train with a bunch of out-of-control, dangerous addicts. It's not an unreasonable request from taxpayers to say we want a clean, safe transit system. It's not unreasonable. And you think of the fare to ride those, and again, two-thirds of there's a third of the past passengers have not returned to the train since the pandemic. They aren't coming back because it's that bad. And of those riding that $3.60 a fare or whatever it is, that's only half of the cost. The rest is subsidized. The city, you pay those tax dollars for those train rides, even if you don't ride that train. Clean the damn thing up. Quit listening to the bloody CBC and their apologies for this crap. And just do your damn job in the city council. What a bunch of wimps these guys are. All right, that's enough ranting out of me for today. I will be back to talk to you guys tomorrow. I got a couple of good guests. I got to talk to Drew Barnes. He's still hard at it, as I mentioned earlier. He's out in Medicine Hat. He's been speaking up for Tamara Leach and speaking up, I guess, as an independent MLA. We'll talk to him about provincial issues. I'm going to talk to David Clement. He's been on before, a good libertarian guy from a consumer center. And he's been talking about the airfares, our domestic airfares in Canada. We pay horrific, some of the highest rates in the country. So let's talk about how we can deal with that and how we can fix that. So I'll let you guys all go. Maybe I'll give a report on what I ran across down in the Midway tonight. And we will be on with the pipeline later on tonight too, with Dave and Derek and I to go on about a few other issues as well. That usually airs about 7 o'clock. And until then, I'll see you at 11:30 tomorrow morning, guys.